for black people, often in connection with people of African descent around the world. But John Hope Franklin would undoubtedly also have taken great pride in the brilliant intellectual and cultural energy that 1619 displays, and in a bold proposition only made possible by the ways in which African and American history are inextricably intertwined, that our country's origin story may have to be reconceived, and that such a reconception will surely demand a profound reckoning.
Thank you so much for those wonderful talks. We have time for questions.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much both. I really enjoyed both presentation. I'm Haitian, professor of sociology here, but also I have a moral obligation to intellectually promote Haiti on campus and outside campus. I'm the founding director of Haitian Studies Institute. We have an institute on Haiti here at Brooklyn College. And I have two questions for Mr. Francis. The first question is based on your socialization, your relationship with your dad. I'm wondering what kind of knowledge that your dad had on the literature on the Haitian Revolution. This is the first question. And the last one, when I arrived, you said many things that Michel Wolfe, a graduate, Haitian graduate here from CUNY, who ended up as a professor of anthropology at Johns Hopkins University. Michel Wolfe, he published in 1995 a book, for me, who should be considered as one of the most important books in the field of Haitian studies. And the title of this book is Silencing the Past, Power and the Production of History. And in this book, Michel Wolfe, he explained the strategy, procedure used by the scientific community to silence the ontological scope and the axiological scope of the Haitian Revolution. So my question is, to what extent that the silence of the Haitian Revolution, what could be, according to your understanding, the negative impact on the fact of silencing the Haitian Revolution for the consciousness of black people and every single African American person?
Well, unfortunately, my father wasn't a French speaker, so he was much more familiar with the literature and the community of the English-speaking Caribbean. When he was at Howard, Eric Williams was a professor, and we went to Trinidad for the first time as a guest of the then Prime Minister. So he was much more comfortable in the English-speaking Caribbean arena rather than Haiti. He went to Haiti. But he introduced, through From Slavery to Freedom, Americans to this vast South American, Central American, and Caribbean history, which was not as well known. And he was deeply involved with the Association for the Study of African American History, Life and History, Association for the Study of African American Life and History, which also promoted that history of the black world. I've just been reading about Carter G. Woodson and Carter G. Woodson's promotion of the understanding of the black world and the Caribbean and Africa in particular. But while African Americans were not necessarily scholars of Haiti, they knew that to terrify white Americans, all you needed to do is say the word Haiti. So there are many black communities around the United States named Haiti. The black community in Durham to this day is called Hayti, H-A-Y-T-I, in honor of the Haitian Revolution. So while it may not be widely known in intellectual circles, it's certainly enjoyed and appreciated by common people.
Could I just add, Trio's book came out at a really important moment, and in the quarter century since, there has been an explosion of scholarship on the Haitian Revolution, which in part suggests what an important event it is in the entire history of North America. I mean, on many, many accounts, and in fact, thousands of slave owners and slaves fled the Haitian Revolution, and most of them ended up in the United States. And this was part of a process by which knowledge of the Haitian Revolution spread, especially among enslaved people, so that the idea that it was possible for people like them to abolish slavery was, I mean, suddenly a new world of possibility opened up. And I think, as your dad's book was one of, again, you think about when it came out, and he had a hemispheric as well as an Atlantic vision. Starts in Africa, but he moves much further south than the south that we think about, and makes it clear to readers that they're thinking about a global experience.
I'm wondering, Mr. Franklin, if you can talk about, to the extent that you know, how much of an impact Brooklyn College had on your father and his scholarship, and also to the extent that you know how he was, as someone who Professor Hayes noted, was putting forth a history that wasn't commonly accepted at the time, how he was perceived here by this all-white institution.
Right. Brooklyn College was a different kind of institution than he'd been in before. It's a city school. He was amazed that the students coming from Midwood and other high schools in Brooklyn already knew each other before they came here. Every other institution he'd been in, whether it was Fisk, North Carolina Central, St. Aug, and Raleigh, University of Chicago, were national institutions and national student bodies. So it's a very different atmosphere here. The Department of History itself was extremely divided. And President Gideon said, none of you can become chief. It was like a congregation. Half of the department wasn't speaking, the other half of the department. And so my father had, for the first time, the challenge of working with a divided department, and he had to create harmony for that department to proceed. And he chose the leader of the opposition in the department to mediate the future of the department. So he was working with these factions to create a better department. I grew up knowing all of the department members as sort of uncle and aunts, because I'm 4 to 12 during this period. And my parents socially engaged this department, invited everyone to come to our home. Now, these are still very segregated times. And when I mentioned these members of Brooklyn College coming to my parents' home in DC, that was in a black neighborhood. These were white historians coming to a black neighborhood. I know my father was highly respected while he was here. As I said, he became an administrator for the first time, but as well as teaching his 4 or 5 courses, continued to write. So Emancipation Proclamation comes out while he's here. Reconstruction comes out while he's here. I think the Militant South comes out at the beginning. So these are books in which he's looking at not just the African American perspective of history, but looking at white American history as well. And it's very controversial in the sense that, okay, you're a black scholar, you just talk about black stuff. You really shouldn't talk about white America, certainly not in a critical fashion. And the Militant South certainly did that. He did another book after he left here called Southern Odyssey, looking at white travelers in the North. And New York City was the Mecca. Women wanted to come here to buy their fashion. They wanted to send their children to school in the North. Writers came to New York to work with New York publishers rather than the publishers in Atlanta and Richmond. So I've just reread that. It's fascinating. But it's, again, his perspective of looking not just within the narrow African American world, but looking at different aspects of America.
I know you have questions.
Now,
Well, I think somebody has to answer this question. If your father were alive, and he looked upon the United States, what would he think has the travels led to for all of us, not just African Americans? What would he be thinking about in terms of African American experience?
well, I knew he would see, he'd be looking at the long sweep of history from the 1500s till now, and see that our society has given more than white males the opportunity to advance in the society, to go to university, to become professionals, to enter many fields which people of color were just not allowed to be. So there's that advance. When he was growing up, the American Bar Association wouldn't have met after him. The American Medical Association wouldn't have met after him. The American Dental Association wouldn't have met after him. So that has changed. But the nature of wealth has not changed that much. The nature of prejudice is very complex, but it's not gone.